Now it says you're live.
It does? Okay, let me check in one area and just make sure because the same screen popped up on my end. Gotta love Mondays, I tell you. Okay, I'm gonna wait just 1 second to see who's tuned in with us. It looks like I have Melissa. Good morning, Melissa. Let's just wait a couple more minutes and just make sure that people are seeing us. If you are hopping on and you see us, give me a thumbs up so I know that this is working fine. My Zoom likes to act up every now and then, but it looks like we have a couple of people that are on here with us, so I'm going to go ahead and get us kicked off and started. Well, good morning and happy Monday to everyone. Excited to start another week of the unknown and really navigating to something a little bit newer than what we've been used to the last month or so. I am Juliette Abdel, President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce. And if this is your first time on our page, please be sure that you're following us on all our social media platforms. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Westy Chamber and here on Facebook. Like our page, follow us so you can stay in tune with updates. Every week on Monday, we feature our mayor, Mayor Herb Atchison, who shares with us what is the city doing in wake of COVID, new updates, things that have kind of come down the pipeline since the last time that we visited. And then we take some time to answer some Q&As. So if you're hopping on right now with us, please be sure if you hear something that's of interest, let us know what that is. We like flattery, so also share if there was a tip that you gained from listening in. And then if you have a question, go ahead and give us a cue and then type in your question. So that way we can be able to bring that up, Mayor can answer it, and then we can move on. If we don't have all the details to answer your question, we'll be back to you with more of a detailed answer. We've done that several times, so please do not hesitate to reach out if you need anything. I'll go ahead and have our mayor kick us off with some information, and then whenever I round out the end of this discussion, I'll let you know what are we in for the rest of this week. But I'll go ahead and turn that over to you, Mayor Atchison, to get us kicked off.
All right, thank you, Juliette. Good morning. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the CARES Act, about Westy Rise, and then we'll try to catch up on some stuff that's going on around the city. As many of you know, we've talked about this several times. Last week on Wednesday, the Westy Rise program reopened. We had over 400 applications the first week that we had it open, and it's just taken us several weeks to get through those applications to find out those that qualified and those that didn't. If they did not qualify, they have been notified that they didn't and why they didn't. Most of the checks that went out were on an average of about $4,500 per business. But for the Westminster Council, you remember, we went back several weeks ago, back in the first part of April, and we approved a fund of $1.5 million to be distributed to our small businesses. The Westy Rise program is a grant. It is not a loan, so it doesn't have to be paid back. But we did reopen the second round of applications last Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. But those who had not been on with us before, or maybe didn't realize it was there, there's still an opportunity because it will be available unless we run out of funds. It will be available through May the 30th. Just a reminder of how it works. Again, this is a grant, not a loan. You can go to westminstereconomicdevelopment.org to the website to fill out the application and get the information you need. But for the most part, the Westy Rise Business Grant can be used by qualifying business to satisfy fixed costs stemming from monthly rent and mortgage payments. Funds would come as a one-time grant that would be equal to the lesser of 50% of each of 2 months' rent or mortgage payments, with a maximum total of $7,500. Again, a grant, not a loan. Grants for eligible business will be awarded on a first-come, first-served basis, subject to funding availability. And applications, again, are open till May the 30th. And one of the things that we have been very busy with as far as with the CARES Act, last week, the City Council approved an intergovernmental agreement, an IGA, with Adams County in the amount of $5,507,090 to be used for CARES Act for expenses incurred by the city. Tonight on the agenda, we will do the same thing, but we will be doing it with Jefferson County. And Jefferson County's amount is $3,528,576. These amounts are based primarily on population within those counties. Now, within the CARES Act, part of what the staff recommended and the council approved last week was how are we going to use this funds and what are the principles for how we will distribute the funds. So we came down to 4 guiding principles within the city. One is economic recovery. As an aid in the recovery of our local economy by providing business with grants and other support, we intend to put $3 million into that fund. For social recovery, as an aid in recovery of the quality of life in Westminster, we're providing programs that rebuild community connection and promote wellness, $1.5 million. People and programs serving people, provide and help partners supply housing and food security to vulnerable and impacted populations, $1.5 million. Local government recovery is to help city employees and visitors respond to changing work environments in an innovative way that ensures the health and safety of all, $3 million. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but I will tell you that adds up to just a little bit less than the total amount of the 2 figures I gave you. It's about 35,000. We have not committed to where that 35,000 will go, but 9 million will come some part of the way to helping us recovery. We still don't know at this point what our total financial impact is going to be. We'll see a big part of that information probably in about another week when we see the financial results of the sales tax reports, property taxes, everything that comes into the city to help fund us. Then the city staff will be evaluating that as to where we are financially and as we go forward looking. As a reminder, we've already made the decision that we will not be doing our typical 2-year budget for 21 and 22. We will only be doing a budget this year for 2021. We just don't know far enough ahead and look in the crystal ball of how much that impact would be. Some of the things that are going on, we already have Safer at Home, which is in effect. It allows businesses in certain areas to reopen. Some still are remaining closed, restaurants and bars, for example. Health studios, stuff like that is still closed. Now, if you want to go to your barber shop or to the hairdresser, those still require opening, but I know that they're doing a lot of social distancing and requirements. And I've experienced myself over the weekend when they opened up. 3 and 4 hours for a man's haircut was a long time to wait. So I skipped it. I'll wait for another day. But one of the things we do want people to do is still be careful and be conscious of people out. There are still people who are vulnerable to connecting with the COVID-19. There are people who will be asymptomatic, I'll get the right word. But the issue is still people are still sick. Our death rate in Adams and Jefferson counties is still going up. We are still losing people. And now we've seen a new part of this virus starting to affect children. And unfortunately, one of the pandemic areas that we saw was New York. At least 3 children over the weekend had died and at least 5 more were infected. This is what was said originally was a group that would probably be not vulnerable to this pandemic. And it turns out that hasn't been true, but it's only showing up. So you go back into March, April, and now it's into May, and we're starting to see the first signs of it happening in children. We'll continue to discuss this whole issue of the pandemic tonight and get more updates from city staff. But the big thing is that we want people to continue to be safe. We've seen a lot of incidents that have occurred here in the metro area over the weekend where people have gotten crossways with each other and who should be wearing, who shouldn't be wearing face coverings. And again, we ask you to use the term face covering because we don't want you to going out buying surgical masks or the N95 mask to use for your own protection. Please use a face covering, a light weight cloth is there. We've been very fortunate. We've been able to keep all of our facilities stocked with PPE. I have my last call with all the hospital CEOs was last Thursday. Our hospitals are still in good shape. We are not at capacity in any of our hospitals on beds. But at the same time, we are concerned very much that if we open up too fast, too much, the second wave could come back and could be a lot more deadly than what the one was before. So we want to be cautious of what goes on within our community and ask people to abide by social distancing, wear face coverings, protect yourselves, and most of all, protect your families. Juliet, I don't have a lot more this morning, so if you've got some questions, we'll try to jump on those.
Well, if you've just hopped on, we've had our mayor visit with us about the Westy Rise grant that reopened. This was the fund that was approved for 1.5 million several weeks back. It had closed within 48 hours, over 400 applicants at the time. And then they reviewed that. Funds that were remaining have been allocated toward the second round of funding, which just opened last Wednesday. So if you have not already applied and you are needing some assistance in Westminster, you potentially can have access to this information on the Westminster Economic Development page. We've also linked it on our page as well, so you can find all the resources at your disposal. The second part of our discussion this morning, our mayor shared about the IGA with both of our counties. This is for dollars that came from CARES that were disseminated to our counties and then through the counties to our cities, so that they can leverage it to address recovery and other ways to support their city and municipalities. And then the last component that our mayor shared, and this was something him and I just talked about before we hopped on, was, I'm clearly not dressed to go out. It's much cooler outside. I don't intend to step outside unless I have to. And that's kind of the idea behind moving to the Safer at Home. You're still able to do more things, but just be conscious as you're going out and be conscious of other people that are in the area. So if you have any questions, let us know. It looks like we have Mayor Pro Tem Sykes. Hello, thank you for hopping on with us. Councilor Scully as well. Good morning to our board members, Mike Lazar and Wayne Anderson. Hello, Danielle Hicks. I'm just quickly checking. So if you have any comments or questions, type them in for us. It looks like we have a question that comes from Matt. Matt is asking, outside of rent assistance while closed, are there any plans to help small businesses rebuild their customer base once we reopen? So rent in some industry isn't the biggest problem for us. In this case, it's a training center that's here. It's about losing our entire customer base. We'll have to rebuild, and in that time will be a hardest task. Any plans to not only help with rent while closed, but help while we try and regain ground lost?
Judah, that's a good question. And what I would refer to is my comment about how we plan to use the CARES Act funds. And that would be through the economic recovery and social recovery. Now, the details of those are still being worked out because this was just approved last week. We do have a portion of the money from Adams County that will be coming to us in 3 parts. The Jefferson County money will be approved tonight. I will imagine. I don't think the council will turn down $3 million. But at the same time, the details of those are still being finalized, but they will be up on the city's website as soon as we can get that open.
Perfect. And then Mayor, can you just kind of reshare the timing of our meeting that's tonight that people can tune into and live stream? And I think last week was the first that you all actually had your cameras on. So we had voice to face as well.
We'll be back on council again tonight at 6:30. I'm sorry, 7. This is not a study session.
Are we sure?
Got to remember which Monday night it is. No, it'll be 7 o'clock tonight.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Okay, so Matt says thank you for that comment as well. Looks like we have Parker Brown. You guys are doing your best every day, Mayor, Police Department, city officials, to make sure everything and everyone's taken care of. Is there anything you want to touch on as far as the Safer at Home orders? I know, both counties have really tried to follow the state level, and then we've digested that as a city and kind of put that with our Westy Rise branding and placed that out. Any key things you wanted to reference for folks that are tuning in?
Well, I think that one of the things you have to look at is you have to compare the 2 orders. And this has been a critical piece that we've had going on since this first started, is trying to make sure that both halves of the cities were on the same order, even though they came from different groups. There's been a lot of feedback, a lot of criticism of the health departments across the state that they're impacting people's lives. We understand that, but we also have to protect the population. As you indicated, you can do a little bit more today than you did last week. Maybe within a couple of weeks, you'll be able to do a little bit more. I know the governor, in a conversation we had with him last week, has a target, and this is purely a target at this point, of trying to make it so that restaurants can start to reopen at least by the end of the month. That doesn't mean they're going to be wide open. Doesn't mean they're going to be 50% or 30%. That's going to be dependent upon how much of the COVID-19 virus infections continue to come in, hospitalizations, and then deaths. All of those factors will weigh in. Social distancing, I think, is going to be here for a while. People should get comfortable with it, but we also want to make sure that people protect each other. A lot of this is going to happen. We'll continue to discuss it just about every Monday night, whether it's a study session or a council meeting like tonight, because things are changing still on a daily basis. We are in constant contact with both of our health departments that support Westminster. And if anything changes that would make it worse is my first fear. If we start to see a big rise after we start into safer at home, we are very likely to be looking at having to go back to stay at home. And for businesses and individuals who are starting to get a little bit of freedom that they didn't have a few weeks ago, are trying to reopen, to have to go backwards could be death to a lot of our businesses. So we want to make sure we take it slow and easy, follow the guidelines, make your customers feel comfortable. But most importantly, check your employees as well, that they're complying with everything that they need to do to keep your store open once it opens.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point that you referenced. You know, a lot of our businesses really need to feel empowered to take care of their employees and institute whatever policy that they wish to protect them and their well-being. You know, I was shopping at Walmart just up the road on 92nd and Sheridan this last weekend, and they started doing announcements. So every few minutes they have an announcement, you know, please keep 6-foot distance. Don't stand side by side to other people that you're interacting with, have your face coverings per our guidelines and things like that. And I think we'll see more of that on our businesses and what they choose to implement and for the safety of their employees as well.
Well, I think one of the things that we saw Monday of last week, we know that Costco went to mandatory face coverings for people coming into the store. I was on the conversation this last week. Shane Company is going to require them coming in. So when you get ready to go buy all those diamonds and stuff, Juliet, make sure you wear a face covering going in. But we're seeing a number of businesses, not only local, but national as well, that have gone to a mandatory face coverings. Those will be some of the things that we're discussing again tonight, and we'll see where the council comes down on that. But I think a lot of it is the people who are in these facilities, such as our grocery stores and stuff, they didn't have an option. They were mandated to wear face coverings. I wear a face covering every time I go into one of those facilities out of respect for the people who are in there working, that we want them to be as protected from us as they are from them. So we try to be as cautious as we can. As city facilities start to reopen, the golf course reopened with very limited service outside of being able to play golf on Saturday. I know that people were out both Saturday and Sunday. The restaurant, you can get stuff brought out to you in the parking lot or out by the patio, but you can't come in and consume beverages or food, either one. But we want to protect the people who are trying to serve us as much as possible. Just like you would go into the hospital, they want you to wear face coverings. If you go into one of our facilities when they become open, respect the people who are in there, because we're going to require them to wear face coverings. But do what you can to protect yourself, but mostly protect the people you're coming in contact with.
Absolutely. And we'll be posting this, you know, we have this commitment that's been circulating around as chambers and things, and it's the customer commitment. So the idea is, you know, as a customer, you know, you need to be committed to maintaining that 6 foot of social distancing, that you will wash your hands often, you know, so that you're not spreading the germs, that you'll cover your face in public, that you're not feeling well, that you choose to stay at home instead, so you're not exposing other people, and that you get tested if you're feeling any of the symptoms at a significant level that warrant for you to get tested and see if you actually have it. So it's a combination, right? We're trying to make sure our businesses are taken care of. And then we as consumers, we need to also take ownership and be sure that we're practicing as much safety and hygiene and healthy approaches as much as possible. We've had a couple of other people hop on. Let me see if we have any questions. Again, if you have a question or comment, drop it in here for us. If you watch this on replay, give us a hashtag replay and let us know your question then, and we'll come back to you. Hi, Brad. Brian Dice, our chairman's on here, and then Lauren Seymour. Hello to you all. It doesn't look like we have any questions. So this is like our lightest day ever, I feel. So I'll just, I'll take this time to just kind of share. This week's programming has kind of been restructured a little bit to help with the reopening. So throughout the week, we'll have things to try and help our businesses get reopened. Tomorrow, we have Dr. Hammond from the Westminster Medical Clinic to visit with us on how do you keep your employees healthy. So looking at testing and things like that. On Wednesday, we'll have our general counsel, Mike Lazar, who'll talk about the legal implications of reopening. So there have been a lot of questions about, you know, if a customer comes in and then later on claims that it's because they went to your store that they got sick, you know, what liability is there and things of that nature for your business to consider. We also on Friday will have contactless payments, so transitioning to that method so you're not interacting and keeping as much distance as possible even when you're doing business. And then on Thursday we have an industry town hall with our partners from the Hoteliers Association in addition to the Brewers Guild to talk about their industry and what they're doing. So with that being said, it doesn't look like we have any questions that are on here. Mayor, I appreciate you taking the morning with me to share updates from the lens of Westminster. And anyone that's tuned in, our mayor has shared tonight is another meeting that they'll be having at 7:30
p.m.
7 o'clock. Details of that is on the City of Westminster website. I just go directly to YouTube. If you go directly to YouTube, you'll type in City of Westminster, Colorado, and then you can find the channel where the live stream is and further information about that meeting. They'll be discussing the IGA agreement with Jefferson County. Already we've discussed and approved the one with Adams County and looked at other ways that we can begin to use that fund to support our community. So I think that is all. Thank you so much again, Mayor Atchison, and to everyone that was tuned in with us.
All right, thanks, Juliet.